Captain Lisa Chen stood at the helm of the ESS Hawking, watching the massive Galactic Council station grow larger in the main viewport. Her ship, Earth's crowning achievement in space travel, crawled through space at what now felt like a snail's pace. Around her vessel, alien ships danced through the void with casual grace, their crystalline drives pulsing with otherworldly light as they crossed vast distances in mere moments. "They're not even trying to be subtle about it," Lieutenant Rodriguez muttered from his station, eyes tracking the sleek Zoraxian vessel as it effortlessly overtook them. The alien ship had appeared at the edge of their sensors mere minutes ago, despite starting its journey from twice as far out as the Hawking. Lisa maintained her composure, though her pride stung. The Hawking represented 15 years of humanity's best engineering, a triumph that had united nations and pushed the boundaries of physics. Now, approaching the station, it felt like showing up to a supersonic air show in a hot air balloon. On the science deck below, Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face closer to her holographic display, ignoring the spectacular view. While others watched alien ships with envy, she watched their energy signatures with growing fascination. Something about their patterns nagged at her trained physicist's mind. Dr. Chen, her assistant, Maya, touched her shoulder gently. "They're requesting the diplomatic team in the observation lounge. The welcoming ceremony will begin soon." Sarah nodded absently, still staring at the readings. "Did you see this power spike? It's like they're burning a small star just to move a few light years. That can't be right." She saved another data set for later analysis. The observation lounge filled quickly with Earth's first diplomatic team. Through the panoramic windows, they watched alien vessels navigate with impossible precision, their crystalline drives leaving trails of quantum distortion in their wake. The Hawking's docking approach took nearly an hour, while similar-sized ships zipped into their berths in minutes. The welcoming party consisted of representatives from 17 spacefaring species. Their diversity was staggering, from the crystalline Zoraxians to the gaseous nebulons contained in elegant environmental suits. At their center stood High Counselor Zixix, a tall, iridescent being who seemed to shift between liquid and solid states. "We welcome our neighbors from Sol," Zixix's translator hummed. "Your achievement in reaching faster-than-light travel is most impressive, given your technological limitations." Lisa felt her jaw tighten, but maintained her diplomatic smile. Sarah, standing beside her sister, barely noticed the condescension. She was too busy studying the station's power distribution network through her augmented reality contact lenses. The tour that followed was clearly designed to awe the human visitors. They showed off their quantum computing cores, their matter replication systems, and their crowning achievement, the crystalline drive manufacturing facility. The aliens explained their drive technology with the patient tone of teachers instructing particularly slow students. But Sarah saw something else. Each demonstration, each system, screamed inefficiency to her trained eye. These advanced civilizations had solved their energy crisis through brute force, throwing endless power at every problem. They'd never needed to think about conservation, about elegant solutions. As they walked past a crystalline drive under construction, Sarah's AR lenses captured terabytes of data. The quantum field patterns, the energy distributions, the space-time distortions, they all followed a pattern that she couldn't quite grasp yet, but she knew it was there. "Fascinating design," she said, drawing curious looks from the alien engineers. "But has anyone ever tried to modify the field geometry to reduce power consumption?" The question earned her blank stares and a few condescending chuckles. "The power requirements are a fundamental aspect of faster-than-light travel," one engineer explained slowly. "You can't change the basic laws of physics." Sarah smiled politely, but her mind was already racing ahead, assembling equations and testing theories. She'd heard those exact words many times in her career, usually right before someone proved them wrong. As the diplomatic team retired to their quarters that night, Lisa found her sister still awake, surrounded by holographic equations. "You saw something out there, didn't you?" Lisa asked. Sarah nodded, her eyes gleaming with the same determination Lisa recognized from their childhood. "They've built an entire civilization on an unquestioned assumption," she said. "And I think it's wrong." 3 weeks after humanity's first contact, the Lunar Propulsion Laboratory resembled a caffeinated nightmare. Holographic displays cluttered every surface, their blue light casting ghostly shadows across walls covered in hastily scrawled equations. In the center of this chaos, Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours. "The energy consumption makes no sense," she muttered, manipulating a three-dimensional model of a crystalline drive's quantum matrix. "They're using enough power to run New York for a decade, just to move one ship across 10 light years." Maya set down a fresh cup of coffee next to her mentor. "Maybe that's just what FTL travel costs," she suggested, repeating what every alien engineer had told them. "Even the Zoraxians with their quantum crystals can't do it with less." Sarah took a long sip of coffee, her eyes never leaving the display. "The Zoraxians evolved in crystal caves. They see everything through the lens of crystalline structures. The Nebulons developed their drives based on gas dynamics. Each species adapted the technology to match their understanding of the universe. And that's bad. It's limiting." Sarah stood up, stretching her stiff muscles. "Look at this power distribution curve." She gestured at a graph showing energy usage across different phases of FTL travel. "They're forcing space to bend using brute force. It's like trying to cut steel with a blowtorch when you could use a plasma cutter." The lab door slid open, admitting Captain Lisa Chen. She carried a data crystal from the Galactic Council. "You requested their historical drive development records," she said, tossing the crystal to her sister. "Took some diplomatic dancing, but they agreed to share their basic research." Sarah caught the crystal, immediately plugging it into her system. New displays sprang to life, showing the evolution of FTL technology across 17 species. Each had discovered faster-than-light travel independently, but they'd all followed remarkably similar paths. "There," Sarah pointed to a particular data set. Every species hit the same wall. They all discovered that manipulating space-time required massive energy input, and instead of looking for alternatives, they focused on finding better energy sources. Lisa studied the displays, her military training helping her spot patterns. They solved their energy production problems before they solved efficient space travel. They never needed to find a better way. "Exactly." Sarah's fingers danced across the holographic controls, overlaying Earth's power generation capacity with the alien drive requirements. "We can't brute force it like they did. We need to find the elegant solution they missed." Maya frowned at the numbers. "But if 17 species all came to the same conclusion?" 17 species who could afford to be wasteful," Sarah countered. She pulled up a new display, showing the complex mathematics of space-time manipulation. "Look at these equations. They're treating space like it's a solid wall that needs to be broken. But space isn't solid. It's more like water." Lisa finished, remembering their childhood swimming lessons. "You don't break through water. You slide through it." Sarah's eyes lit up. She rushed to a fresh display, her fingers flying as she input new equations. "Not water. Music. Space is like a standing wave. The aliens are trying to disrupt it with pure force, but what if we could make it resonate instead?" The next 12 hours passed in a blur of calculations and simulations. Sarah's team grew as word spread through the laboratory. Physicists, engineers, and mathematicians crowded around her displays, arguing over equations and running scenarios. At hour 13, every display in the lab suddenly froze. Sarah stood perfectly still, staring at the final calculation. The room fell silent. Did we just prove the Galactic Council wrong?" Maya whispered. Sarah nodded slowly, a smile spreading across her face. "Their drives are using 1 trillion times more power than they need to. Space doesn't want to be forced open. It wants to be convinced." Lisa studied her sister's expression. She knew that look. "How long until you can build a prototype?" "With standard approval processes, 2 years." Sarah was already pulling up design software. But if we do it my way, using the old lunar mining facility, 2 months. That's impossible, Maya protested. Sarah's grin widened. Impossible is what we do best. Get me some coffee and wake up the engineering team. We're about to rewrite the book on faster-than-light travel. The old concert hall in Lunar Dome 7 hadn't seen use in years, but its acoustics were still perfect. Sarah Chen sat at her grandmother's restored grand piano, her fingers dancing across the keys while holographic equations floated above the strings. Each note sent ripples through the mathematical models of space-time hovering in the air. I still don't understand, Kovacs said, his crystalline form refracting the hologram's light. The young Zoraxian engineer had been the only alien willing to listen to Sarah's theory. How does human music relate to faster-than-light travel? Sarah played a perfect fifth interval, watching the harmonics visualize in the equations. Every culture that developed music discovered the same patterns, the same mathematical relationships, the same harmonies. Her fingers shifted to a minor chord. The universe itself vibrates at specific frequencies. Maya entered the concert hall, carrying fresh sensor data from their latest simulation. She paused, watching the equations dance with each note. The Council's science division rejected our paper again. They say our math is wishful thinking. They're not ready to see it yet, Sarah replied, never stopping her playing. The piece shifted to a complex crescendo, and the holographic model of space-time rippled in perfect synchronization. Look at how space responds to harmonic resonance. It's not just mathematics, it's music on a cosmic scale. Kovacs moved closer to the piano, his crystalline sensors analyzing every frequency. In our drive systems, we force space to quantum tunnel using crystalline matrices. We never considered resonance. Sarah nodded, transitioning to a delicate arpeggio. The crystalline drives are like using a hammer to break glass, when all you need is the right note. She struck a high C, and one of the sensor crystals Kovacs had brought vibrated in response. See, even your technology understands resonance. You just never applied it to space itself. The piano's last note faded, and Sarah pulled up their latest prototype designs. We've been mapping the resonant frequencies of local space-time. Every region has its own melody, its own rhythm. If we can match that rhythm, we can slip through space without forcing it. Maya finished, finally understanding. She projected their power consumption estimates next to the Council's standard drive specifications. Our design would use less than 1/1000th of the energy. Kovacs's crystal structure flickered with excitement, the Zoraxian equivalent of goosebumps. This would revolutionize everything. But the Council, they've built their entire civilization around current drive technology. The economic implications alone. Which is exactly why they keep rejecting our proposals, Maya said, bringing up the latest denial notice. They're afraid of what this means. Sarah closed the piano gently, her grandmother's lessons echoing in her memory. Fear of change is universal, I suppose. But so is music. She turned to Kovacs. Your species developed crystalline harmonics for communication. The nebulons use gas pressure waves to sing across light years. Even the methane storms on Titan create patterns we can predict and replicate. She brought up a new simulation, this one showing their prototype drive design. We're not breaking the laws of physics. We're finally listening to them. Space isn't our enemy to be conquered. It's our partner in a cosmic dance. Kovacs studied the design, his natural ability to analyze crystal structures helping him grasp the complex resonance patterns. This will work, he said finally. But the Council will never approve it for testing. Sarah smiled, pulling up a secure channel to the abandoned mining facility, where her sister Lisa was already gathering components. Who said anything about asking for approval? Sometimes it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. She initiated the final simulation sequence, and the concert hall filled with a visualization of their theoretical drive in action. The mathematics of space-time translated into pure music, a symphony of possibility that made Kivax's crystal structure resonate in harmony. "When do we begin?" he asked. Sarah was already gathering her data crystals, her mind racing with calculations and compositions. "We already have. Welcome to the revolution, Kivax. It's going to be beautiful." The abandoned lunar mining facility looked more like a scrapyard than humanity's best hope for revolutionizing space travel. Discarded sensor arrays from decommissioned satellites littered the workshop floor, while modified smartphone quantum processors hummed in jury-rigged cooling baths. In the center of it all stood Sarah's pride and joy, a repurposed industrial coffee maker. "You're joking," Lisa said, staring at the device. "That's not really part of the drive system, is it?" Sarah patted the coffee maker affectionately. "The heating element creates the perfect resonance frequency when we run it at exactly 73.4% power. Plus, we still need caffeine." Kivax's crystalline structure sparkled with amusement as he calibrated the sensor array. The young Zoraxian had thrown himself into the project with surprising enthusiasm, his species' natural affinity for vibration patterns proving invaluable. "The council observers will be here in 20 minutes, Maya announced, checking her tablet. "They're sending 3 senior engineers and a safety inspector." Sarah nodded, making final adjustments to what they'd dubbed the kitchen sink drive, because they'd thrown everything including the kitchen sink into its construction. The drive itself looked deceptively simple, a spherical chamber surrounded by precisely arranged resonators salvaged from old sound systems. "Remember," she told her team, "they're expecting another failed human experiment. Let them think that until the moment we activate the drive." The observers arrived right on schedule, their environmental suits gleaming in stark contrast to the workshop's organized chaos. The senior engineer, a tall Nebulon named Sith, didn't bother hiding his disdain. "This facility hardly meets standard safety protocols." Sith's translator hummed. "And your power supply is inadequate for FTL testing." "We won't need much power," Sarah explained, bringing up the test sequence. "Our drive works on different principles." The safety inspector, a crystalline being like Kivax, but older and more rigid, scanned the setup. "Your containment fields are barely strong enough to hold a vacuum." "That's because we're not fighting against space," Kivax interjected, earning disapproving glares from his elders. "We're working with it." Sarah initiated the startup sequence. The resonators hummed to life, each one adding its voice to a growing symphony of frequencies. The coffee maker's heating element pulsed rhythmically, creating a baseline resonance that the other components built upon. "Power consumption at 0.1% of standard drive requirements," Maya reported, monitoring the displays. "Resonance patterns stable and synchronized." The alien observers clustered around their own sensors, their skepticism turning to confusion as they read the data. The small test chip, really just a sensor package with minimal life support, sat in the center of the chamber, surrounded by rippling patterns of light. "That's impossible," Sith declared, checking the readings again. "You can't generate a stable field with so little power." Sarah smiled, her fingers dancing across the control panel like piano keys. "We're not generating the field. We're asking space to share it with us." She nodded to Kivax, ready for final synchronization. Kivax's natural crystalline resonance aligned with the drive frequencies, adding the last harmonic layer to their cosmic symphony. The test ship began to glow softly, surrounded by what looked like ripples in reality itself. "Test trajectory locked," Maya announced. "Target is lunar orbit, micro jump of 0.1 light seconds." The alien observers backed away as the resonance built to its crescendo. Sarah felt the frequencies through her bones, recognizing the perfect harmony they'd spent months pursuing. At exactly the right moment, she struck the final key. Reality rippled. The test chip vanished without a sound, without a flash, without the massive energy discharge that accompanied normal FTL jumps. For one terrifying second, nothing happened. Then Maya's console lit up. Target acquired. The ship, It's exactly where we aimed it. Perfect trajectory, zero drift. And she paused, checking the numbers again. Power consumption was less than making a cup of coffee. The silence that followed was broken only by the steady hum of the resonators powering down. The alien observers stood frozen, their sensors displaying numbers that shattered every assumption their civilization was built upon. "Well," Sarah said, actually making herself a cup of coffee from their repurposed drive component, "who'd like to help us run the test again?" The data packet traveled faster than any human message before it, racing across the quantum networks that connected the 17 species of the Galactic Council. It contained only test results, power readings, resonance patterns, and a simple video of a small ship vanishing without the familiar flash of a crystalline drive. Sarah watched the messages spread from her lab's communications array, each new download lighting up like a star on her galactic map. "It's like watching a chain reaction," she mused, sipping from her now famous coffee maker. "The Council is demanding we cease all testing immediately," Lisa reported, reading from her diplomatic channel. "They're citing safety concerns and unverified protocols." Maya looked up from her own display, where amateur scientists across the galaxy were already beginning to analyze their published data. "Too late. We're getting responses from independent researchers on 12 different worlds. They're already starting to replicate our results." Kovacs's crystalline form flickered with excitement as he monitored the scientific channels. 3 different Zoraxian engineering guilds have confirmed the basic principles. They're calling it the resonance method. "My people understand harmonics. We can't ignore evidence this clear." The lab's main screen flashed with an incoming priority transmission. High Counselor Zixix appeared, their iridescent form rippling with barely contained agitation. "Dr. Chen, you must rescind your publication immediately. The implications for established drive technologies are exactly why we published," Sarah interrupted politely. "The galaxy deserves efficient space travel. We're not patenting this. We're not selling it. We're sharing it. You don't understand the economic impact." "With respect, Counselor," Lisa stepped into view, "we understand perfectly. Your economy is built on artificially expensive FTL travel. But that's not humanity's problem to solve." The transmission cut off abruptly, but Sarah barely noticed. She was watching another kind of transmission spreading across the galaxy. Garage engineers and independent scientists were already improving on their design. A team of Nebulon students had figured out how to adapt the resonance patterns for their gas-based technology. A Zoraxian artist had discovered that traditional crystal singing could help calibrate the harmonics. "They're making it better," Maya said, scrolling through the incoming modifications. "Every species is adding their own understanding, their own perspective. The Methan Brothers of Titan just posted a fascinating variant using atmospheric harmonics." Sarah started cataloging the improvements, her fingers dancing across holographic keys. "That's exactly what we hoped would happen. The Council thinks in terms of control, but science doesn't work that way. Knowledge wants to be free." Kovacs suddenly straightened, his crystal structure vibrating with alarm. "Emergency broadcast from the Zoraxian Commerce Guild. They're suspending all crystalline drive production. The market is already responding to our publication. Nobody wants to invest in the old technology." The economic shockwaves spread faster than light. Stock markets across 17 worlds plunged as massive drive manufacturing corporations saw their future markets evaporate. But alongside the chaos, something else was happening. "Look at this." Maya brought up a series of images on the main display. Small ships, independent traders, and research vessels were already testing prototype resonance drives. A Nebulon cargo hauler had successfully completed a jump using less power than its life support systems. A coalition of independent worlds previously unable to afford crystalline drives was pooling resources to build a resonance-based trade fleet. "We didn't just change the technology," Lisa realized, watching the reports flood in. "We changed the balance of power." Sarah nodded, already working on improvements to their original design. The council built their authority on technological superiority, but they forgot something important about technology. She brought up an image of their first prototype, still sitting in the lunar workshop. The best solutions come from necessity, from having to think differently, from having to be clever. The lab's windows automatically dimmed as a ship flashed into existence nearby, not with the usual eye-searing flare of a crystalline drive, but with a gentle ripple like a stone dropped in a still pond. The pilot's transmission made them all smile. "Resonance jump successful," reported the young Titan engineer. "Also, I improved your coffee maker design. Who's up for a test run?" Sarah Chen woke to flashing red alerts across her lab's security system. The backup servers in Argentina had gone dark. Their mirror site in Kenya reported systematic intrusion attempts. Across the globe, every database containing resonance drive specifications was under attack. "They're trying to erase it," Maya reported, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards. "Sophisticated quantum-level data corruption. Has to be the big drive manufacturers." Lisa paced the lab, reading reports from Earth's diplomatic corps. "It's not just cyber attacks. 3 independent research teams have reported accidents in their testing facilities. No casualties, but their prototypes were destroyed." Kavak's crystalline form pulsed with agitation as he processed data streams from his homeworld. "The crystal guilds are threatening to revoke engineering licenses from anyone working with resonance technology. They're calling it unreliable and dangerous." Sarah sipped her coffee, watching the attacks unfold on the main display. Then, slowly, she smiled. "They still don't understand how humans think, do they?" She pulled up a new project file, one she'd been saving for exactly this situation. "Maya, remember that game engine you used to work with? The one for building massive multiplayer simulations?" Maya looked up from her defensive coding. "The Quantum Dreams engine? Yeah. But what does that have to?" "Oh." A matching smile spread across her face. "That's brilliant." 24 hours later, a new game appeared on Earth's entertainment networks, Star Symphony. Its description was simple: solve musical puzzles, explore the galaxy, compete with friends. Within hours, it had 1 million downloads. The tutorial level teaches basic resonance theory through chord progressions, Sarah explained to Kavax as they watched the player count climb. Each puzzle solution is actually a working drive configuration. Maya brought up the player statistics. Level 3 just unlocked. Yes, 300,000 people are now solving quantum harmonics equations, thinking they're just matching musical patterns. Humans will turn anything into entertainment, Lisa marveled, watching real scientific breakthroughs emerge from what players thought were just game mechanics. The attacks continued, growing more sophisticated. But for every database they corrupted, 10 new solutions emerged from the game's global player base. The Crystal Guilds couldn't understand why their suppression efforts were failing. "Look at this," Kavax highlighted a particular player's solution. "They solved the phase variance problem we've been struggling with. They thought they were just creating a perfect harmony, but they actually revolutionized the field stabilization process." Sarah nodded, already implementing the solution into their next prototype. "The best part? They can't stop this without admitting what the game really is. And if they do that, they'll have to admit the technology works," Lisa finished. Checkmate. The lab's main screen filled with new achievements as players across Earth reached higher levels. Each seemingly simple musical solution represented another step forward in drive technology. The game's social features let players share their compositions, spreading working drive configurations faster than any corporate sabotage could erase them. "Challenge level unlocked in Singapore," Maya announced. "They're optimizing power consumption through what they think is a rhythm game. Current high score represents 38% better efficiency than our original design." Kavax studied the game's spread, his crystalline sensors detecting patterns in the data. "It's reaching other worlds now. Some Xeraxian engineers recognize the underlying mathematics. They're creating their own versions." Sarah watched as new variants of the game appeared across the galaxy. Each species adapted it to their own musical traditions, their own understanding of harmony. The Nebulons created a version based on pressure waves. The Methane Brothers of Titan transformed it into storms of sound. "That's the real revolution," she said softly. "Not the technology itself, but how we share it, how we make it grow." She gestured at the screen showing millions of players, each one unknowingly pushing the boundaries of physics through play. They thought they could control this by controlling information, but they forgot something important. "What's that?" Kavax asked. Sarah's smile widened as another breakthrough appeared, disguised as a perfect game score. "Humans will always find a way to share what matters. We just make it fun along the way." The Galactic Council chamber had never seen anything quite like this. Where once only the representatives of the 17 major powers sat, now the galleries overflowed with delegates from hundreds of worlds. Small trading outposts, research stations, and independent colonies. Places that could never have afforded regular transport before the resonance drives, all demanded to be heard. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her sister Lisa beside her, facing the assembled species. Above them, ships of all sizes and designs danced through space, each one powered by some variation of the kitchen sink drive. The familiar ripples of their passages created an ever-changing pattern against the stars. 3 months ago, Sarah began. A cargo ship from the Outer Rim completed a supply run to 12 previously isolated colonies. The entire journey used less power than this chamber's lighting system consumes in a day. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. High Counselor Zixix shifted uncomfortably in their environmental field. The great trading corporations had lost billions as independent shippers with resonance drives undercut their monopolies. 2 weeks ago, Lisa continued, a medical emergency on Nueva Terra was resolved when 50 small rescue ships jumped in simultaneously, coordinating their resonance patterns to create a stable transit corridor. Such cooperation would have been impossible with traditional drives. Kavax, now wearing the insignia of the reformed Zoraxian Science Academy, projected data from his crystalline form. Productivity across the galaxy has increased by 300%. Worlds previously considered too remote for regular contact are now major trading hubs. The galactic economy isn't shrinking, it's transforming. Maya brought up displays showing the latest innovations. Star Symphony players have generated over 10,000 unique drive configurations, each one optimized for specific ships, specific regions of space, specific needs. The ecosystem of solutions grows daily. A Nebulon representative rose, their gas form swirling with emotion. Our people lived in debt for generations, paying off the cost of traditional drive systems. Now our youngest engineers build resonance drives in their home workshops. We have become a spacefaring culture truly worthy of the name. From the upper gallery, representatives of the former Crystal Guilds watched their monopoly crumble, but even they couldn't deny the evidence before them. Their own worlds were thriving as resources once spent on drive maintenance were redirected to new innovations. This was never about replacing one technology with another, Sarah explained, bringing up an image of their first prototype. It was about challenging our assumptions, about finding harmony not just in space, but between species. The chamber's displays filled with images from across the galaxy. A Titan methane breather teaching resonance theory to Zoraxian students, human engineers collaborating with Nebulon artists to create more efficient drive patterns, countless small ships bringing hope and connection to formerly isolated worlds. We propose, Lisa addressed the council formally, a new framework for galactic cooperation, not based on who controls the technology, but on who can improve it. Every species brings unique insights. Every culture adds its own harmony to the symphony. High Counselor Zixix rose slowly, their iridescent form reflecting the light of 1,000 passing ships. When humanity first reached our stars, we saw you as primitive, limited by your resources and understanding. We were wrong. You showed us that limitation breeds innovation, and sharing knowledge makes us all stronger. The council chamber erupted in lights as representatives signed on to the new framework. The 17 original member species found themselves part of something larger, a true galactic community where technology served connection rather than control. Outside, another ship rippled into existence, its resonance drive singing in perfect harmony with the space around it. Its captain, a young engineer from a world that hadn't seen visitors in generations, transmitted a simple message. Course laid in for cultural exchange mission to Earth, bringing local coffee variants for testing in the famous prototype. After all, every good revolution needs good coffee. Sarah smiled, watching the new order take shape among the stars. They had done more than change how ships moved through space. They had changed how species moved toward each other, finding strength in harmony rather than power. The symphony played on, and the galaxy danced to its tune. 5 years after the first kitchen sink drive test, the Lunar Propulsion Laboratory had transformed. The old mining facility, once cluttered with salvaged parts, now housed the Interstellar Engineering Academy. Students from 1,000 worlds filled its halls, each bringing their own perspective on the art of resonance travel. Sarah Chen stood in her original workshop, now preserved as a historical exhibit. The famous coffee maker still held pride of place, surrounded by holograms showing the evolution of resonance drive technology. A group of young students, human, Zoraxian, Nebulon, and more, gathered around her for their final lesson. Everyone said faster than light travel had to be complex, she told them, running her hand along the old prototype's housing. They said it had to be expensive, difficult, power-hungry. But the universe had a different lesson to teach us. Maya, now the Academy's head of innovation, brought up a real-time display of local space. Hundreds of ships moved through the void, their resonance drives creating an intricate dance of ripples and harmonies. Each one represented a different solution, a different approach to the same fundamental principle. The latest variant from the Titan Engineering Collective just set a new efficiency record, Maya announced. They used storm pattern mathematics to optimize the resonance field. No one else would have thought of that. But they grew up listening to methane storms. Kavax, his crystalline form now bearing the complex patterns of a master teacher, demonstrated the principles using his natural resonance. Every species hears the music of space differently. That's not a weakness. It's our greatest strength. Lisa entered the workshop, her diplomatic uniform now bearing the insignia of the new Galactic Alliance. The last of the old crystalline drive manufacturing plants has converted to resonance technology. The transition is complete. Sarah nodded, but her attention was on a young Nebulon student who was studying the original equations with puzzled gas swirls. "You have a question." "Professor Chen," the student's translator hummed. "The math is elegant. But how did you know to try this approach? All the textbooks said it was impossible." Sarah smiled, walking to the old piano she'd moved into the workshop. Her fingers found the keys, playing the same melody that had sparked her original insight. Because impossible is just another word for no one's done it yet. The universe doesn't care what we think is impossible. It only cares if we're willing to listen. The workshop filled with music as she played, and the students watched in wonder as the sound waves interacted with their ship sensors, creating patterns that mirrored the resonance drive harmonics perfectly. 5 years ago, Lisa addressed the class. Humanity was considered primitive because we couldn't brute force our way through space. Now the galaxy understands. True advancement comes not from power, but from perspective. Through the workshop's windows, a new ship appeared in a gentle ripple of space-time. Its design was unlike anything seen before. A collaboration between 12 different species, each contributing their understanding of resonance and harmony. It moved through space not by forcing its way, but by becoming part of the cosmic dance. "Your final assignment," Sarah told her students as the music faded, "isn't to memorize equations or master techniques. It's to remember this. The universe is not a barrier to be broken, but a partner to be understood. Every problem has a harmony waiting to be found. Every challenge is an invitation to listen more carefully. The students departed, heading to ships bound for worlds across the galaxy. Each would take this lesson home, adding their own voice to the growing symphony of space travel. The impossible had become routine, not through force or power, but through understanding and cooperation. Sarah turned to her sister, her friend, and her colleague, the team that had started it all. Ready for the next impossible thing. Maya grinned, already pulling up new project files. Kuvax's crystal structure sparkled with anticipation. Lisa shook her head in mock exasperation. Always, they answered together. As another ship rippled into existence overhead, its passage through space as graceful as a dancer's leap, as natural as a song.